Hello, everyone. Welcome back to I See Melanie. Today, we're going to be talking about the Love is Blind Season 8 reunion special. Now, this season, they saved all the drama for the last two episodes. It was a lot. I wasn't expecting this degree of mess. And some of the things that we learned, I was surprised to hear the mess coming from a certain somebody. And I can't wait to talk about all the drama that went on. But before I do that, make sure you go and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything that I have coming out in the very near futures. And also click the notification bell, like, share, and subscribe. I said subscribe already, but also make sure you leave your comments so I know what you thought of this episode as well. Let's start off with the positive. So that is Taylor and Daniel as per usual. So I was very happy to see that they're still together. They're still very much in love. And before I said I didn't see chemistry between the two of them, I see it now. They are glowing, they're beaming together, and everything's going well for them. They're getting a house. They've done all their trips and Valentine's Day and Christmas and all that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, Daniel's mom, we all wish her well with her bone marrow transplant, but that even brought their families closer together with Daniel's dad staying over at Taylor's brother's house. So, yeah, with them, it's always good. There's never anything bad to say about them. Oh, well, the only bad thing I would say is, I think it's a nice gesture to get a tattoo if you're a tattoo person of your partner. And Taylor has beautiful eyes, but that tattoo he had on his chest, I wasn't a fan of it. If it was smaller and he put it somewhere else, but I wasn't a fan. What do you think of Daniel's new tattoo? All right, let's talk about Virginia and Devin. So the one thing I noticed immediately was Virginia's speech. She sounded so different. The last episode I said she sounded like a zombie. She doesn't anymore. She's speaking from her diaphragm and she is totally with it. Not that she's always been smart. She's clearly a smart woman, but she doesn't drone on like she used to. And yes, she was very clear. And I was thinking about it. I wonder if that was almost not a persona, but something that she put on for the show because she wasn't comfortable with either the show or with Devin, or I have no idea, but her speech was very, very different. When Virginia was talking about the core value misalignment, she was very clear to say that her values include things like LGBTQ rights, women's rights to abortion and other issues pertaining to women's bodies, and also inclusiveness when it comes to, say, different religions, as she's got Muslim family as well as Christian. So by implication, because Devin hasn't said anything, he votes Republican. He is not pro-LGBTQ rights. He doesn't really have the same views of women's rights. He's more pro-life, and perhaps he's Islamophobic. So, yeah. And in regard to voting, like I mentioned in the other videos, people can vote for whatever party they want to, right? That's fine in principle. There aren't many Black Republicans for a reason, but Devin's one of them. There are some. I just always think that if you are steadfast in your views, you shouldn't be afraid to voice them. I voice my political views all the time. I am not American. I'm Canadian, but I am a left-leaning I'm a leftist, and I have no qualms in voicing that. And so I think it's kind of, a little weaselly of Devin to not say anything, because if you're a Trumper, if you're a Black MAGA guy, say it with your chest, wear the hat, be proud of your decision, and let people know exactly who you are. That's what I say. As Devin said, as a couple, he doesn't believe the two people in the couple need to agree with everything. And he said there are certain things he can look past, again, because he doesn't care about LGBTQ rights, women's rights, or, not being Islamophobe. But what he doesn't really understand is that she's talking about her core principles or core values. So yeah, you might have 10 values out there, but if 3 of them are your core, the other 7 might be a bit interchangeable. You might be able to look past some of those 7, but those 3, they need to be there. And so that's why they're fundamentally not a good match. And also the problem with Devin is that he's just not very forthcoming. So again, the issue with the note from the ex-girlfriend, Virginia learning that this woman was his ex-girlfriend from the mom. So I don't think they were up to anything, Devin and this woman, but these are things that maybe he could share with Virginia. That's not even so bad because if they dated in high school, that was a long time ago. But again, the issue with the check and his explanation of, oh, I was going to share it with you after the wedding. It's like, why do you have to share a check or news of a check with her until after the wedding? Again, this is not like a physical present. Well, it's not like a gift that you unwrap. It is just paper in an envelope and a card. So you can tell her about it now. I am positive he pocketed it or would have pocketed it. Who knows? The guy probably got his gift back anyway. But yeah, he's just not a very forthcoming person. And how could you have any degree of trust, especially again, he's somebody who you just met 5, 6 weeks ago. And also the situation where she was delivering a gift, stuff that she paid for him, and she asked him for help to just carry it up the stairs, and he was giving her static about it. And then when he saw the size, he's like, oh, well, you could have brought it up yourself. It's like, really? Really? You're begrudging her that? Like, you he is not right. He doesn't know how to treat somebody like Virginia properly. They are not a good match. And also the situation where he was telling people that she ghosted him after the wedding when that indeed wasn't the case. He wasn't answering her phone calls back. And then Molly and Madison pipe in. They say, well, actually, no, you told us that she ghosted you. And then he wants to belittle them and, invalidate what they're saying by saying that they were so drunk at the bar at that time. So it's just like, you're not very, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. And then he said this, which like pretty much all the guys said, you know what, but till this day, I think Virginia's a great woman and she has all these great qualities and stuff to make them look like, they're the bigger person by giving these women, Virginia in this instance, a basic compliment that is just the truth. Like, really? Just so you can look good? I was so not impressed. And again, Virginia is a catch. She's gorgeous. She's educated. She is just somebody who's just on a level that's just Devin could never imagine. So yes, I'm so glad they didn't get back together. And I don't think that when she was calling him after the wedding, I think she was just calling him to see how he was doing. I don't think it's a matter of the Sara situation where she was trying to get back together with him. Because she's a decent person. Now let's talk about Ben and Sara. So I have to say, they both irritated me. Sara did as well this time. But Ben was just next level sleazy. So when Ben came in and he said that he now realizes that he, as a white man, has privilege and it's something he's not proud of. For one, I don't really think that he even thinks about that all that much to begin with. But also, it's not a matter of something to not be proud of, to be ashamed of, like whatever. It's just a matter of, I realize what it is. And the more important thing, or the thing you need to do, is use that capital, if you will, to be good to other people in society. He's so fake. So Sara once again mentioned that she thought that Ben would become more curious now that she kind of spurred on all these thoughts in him and that he would change, but he didn't. And it's like Sara, I forgot how old she is exactly, but she's around 30 years old. She is old enough to know that people don't change. People only change, if they do, when they feel from within their soul that they have the catalyst, the impetus to change. It can't be imposed on by somebody else, and it's definitely not going to happen in 5 to 6 weeks. And again, he has the right to be the way he is. He should be more curious. I think everyone should be curious. But yeah, it's not for him to change for you. He needs to change for himself. And she needs to see, like, he is consistent in his behavior. And like the Maya Angelou quote says, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And when I found out they got back together and they were living together and they were going to live together in Tennessee at first, I was like, Sara, are you serious? Are you serious? You left him at the altar. You made it seem very clear that you weren't interested in him because, again, the core values didn't align. And you stayed with him? And this man, he still says he doesn't know the stance of his church because, he might sleep in one Sunday and not make it to that particular sermon or whatever, and so he doesn't really know. And then he also says he doesn't know their stance on LGBTQ rights because he never really had to think about it because it doesn't impact his life. Like, first of all, again, he is not an empathetic person, even though he goes to church and most Christian churches basically talk about loving their neighbor and stuff. I don't know what his church says. He doesn't know either. But it's like, that's such a narrow-minded way of thinking. Also, didn't we meet a friend of yours who's a lesbian? And you know friends who are that way? So he's lying somewhere. He's lying somewhere. And again, I think it's a matter of him being a closeted conservative with traditional values. He is not open to the LGBTQ crowd because he is very insular. The idea that he doesn't know and the church has never stated their thoughts on gay marriage and so on. Really? I'm pretty sure, like in Canada, we've had gay marriage for, I don't know, since 2000 or 2005, I think. I can't remember, but in the US, it's been a deal since 2015. And there was so much ruckus. Like, I don't know how you turned on the internet without hearing something about it back then. So it's just like he is such a swarmy liar. I cannot stand him. And the idea that he broke up with her by very passively just taking her off the Find My Friend location thing on the phone. He doesn't have the nerve or the bravery to get on the phone or go to Tennessee like he planned to do it to her face. He's just such a snake in the grass. He gives religious people a bad name, and I know not all religious people are like him. Trust me, I know. But he gives religious people a bad name. I hope I don't learn in the next few months or something that they got back together again, because I had no idea Sara was so stupid and would get back together with this guy. So yeah, I'm looking at her sideways from now on, even though her dress was very nice. But yeah, those two, and then how he took advice and how he was talking about coordinating the speeches. Like, he just looked so fake and contrived. And I don't even know, like, who is going to want to work with him if he wants to work as an influencer or something. He just looks so tainted now. I don't wish any influencer opportunities for him. Okay, guys, now let's talk about something that really hurt me. And that has to do with all the things that went down between Monica and Joey. I thought Joey was such a nice, good guy. I did not expect any of what Monica said. And Monica looked so like she was composed, but she looked so hurt and betrayed. I felt so bad for her. She's a nice young woman. I hope that she gets influencer opportunities and she can maybe meet another man somewhere on another show or like wherever, because she's a very nice, genuine person. So it was interesting to know that they both hadn't said I love you to each other prior to getting up there on the altar. So, yeah, I guess in hindsight, I guess they were a bit too jokey. Maybe I should go back, and I don't feel like going back, but looking at their interactions and things like that, to see that they just had a good friend vibe. But I always thought, like, at the end of the last episode, that they had the potential to, see how things go forward. And so we learned that they hung out. She was helping him with his place. She went to, like, family and friends outings with him as well. And they slept together 1 or 2 times. I have no idea. That's kind of weird that they don't have a consensus on that. Anyway, the stuff that she mentioned with Madison. So yeah, he slid in her DMs after that meetup at that bar, complimenting on her hair. Like, that's one thing to say, oh, the pink hair is cool. But to say, I wish we had more time to talk or something to that effect. It's like, Joey. And then I was very unimpressed when he said, well, I caught up with everybody. So Madison was one of, 4 people who I said hi to. It's like, Joey, don't. You wanted to talk to her, okay? And that was, I'm still so mad. It's one thing when you're just mad at somebody, like how we all hate Dave, but he's always been pretty low. But this guy, Joey, he was like all the way up here and he just slid. It's so disappointing. And then the situation where he said that Madison at one point after the wedding, came up to him in a bar and was coming on to him. And then Monica goes to Madison, and Madison's like, what? And they both confront him. And then Joey says, Monica, I never said that to you. So he's gaslighting her. I'm like, oh, this is too much. This is too much. Poor Monica. Like, that's terrible. And also, I wasn't impressed in how Joey answered the question about he and Madison dating. So when Nick confirmed, are you talking about before the pods, or like did you date after the pods? And Madison said, no, not after the pods. And Joey's like, no, like I wouldn't touch her.
Joey, wait, you dated like in the pods, or you dated in real life?
Yeah, not in real life.
You dated in the pods. Okay.
That was pretty rude and immature. He could just say, oh, no, not after the pods. Also, I understand that the sister, even though she turned out to be right, the sister would be a bit of a thorn on the side of their relationship. I get that. I don't think it's fair to say that their relationship pretty much never progressed because her sister is the way she is. I know they're very close, and of course he's close with his family, she's close with her family, close with her sister, and so that they have a very close dynamic. But I think with time, if they actually went somewhere, the sister was warming up, and that was just an excuse. And again, it's kind of putting the responsibility out there away from him, which I didn't think was very mature at all. Even though this was painful for Monica, I'm glad that she is sure now that they can't be. She's not going to try to get back together with him again. They'll just be two people who live in Minnesota, and that's it. So, yes. And Joey, please do better, because his reputation, I still can't believe he treated her like that. I'm so disappointed in him. Now let's talk about Dave and Lauren. So I'm so glad they didn't reconcile during that year in between filming to now. And yes, as she mentioned, she is light years way mature than he is. And he says, yeah, he came off looking like a fool, even though, his sister didn't want him to, but he sure enough did. And only a couple of weeks ago did he find out that the guy who Lauren hooked up with, he was just doing it to instigate things and to get on TV. Like, Dave, like, what do you think? If you knew this a year ago, and now finally, a year later, you're like, oh yeah, he actually is a bad guy. It's like, oh, really? And also, he did mention that the producers and people told all of them that, be aware that there are going to be people who are going to want to glom onto this and get in your relationship. And he said, oh, people shouldn't do that. They shouldn't do that, but people will. People love fame, and they'll get it by any means necessary. So yeah, this realization is like, I don't think you're that stupid, Dave. I think you realized this way before then. I do think now Dave realizes that Lauren is the one, or a one, who got the way, but he still can't reconcile things in his head. He's still throwing his sister under the bus, his friends under the bus, still saying that, the sister's mind was made up. She didn't want to talk to Lauren, even though the sister, he claimed at least, when he told her about the breakup, she sent a text back with the crying emojis. And even little things like him not giving the letter to the sister, then claiming he gave it to her later on, which didn't make any sense. He was lying, and he's still saying that he couldn't convince his people. It's like, who are these people? Like, is his sister like a mafia boss or something? Like, are they going to put a hit on him if he tries to bring this woman to the house? It doesn't make any sense. I think he needs healing for, I guess, being closed in for whatever reason. And that's okay, but just recognize that. And like, he really should not have come on this show. I think he, like that guy she hooked up with too, I think he came on for fame. I didn't think so before, but he knows he has no business being on a show that's as intense and as purposeful as Love is Blind. Now let's talk about the love square. Madison, Mason, Meg, and Alex. So I think Madison was a bit manipulative when she was dating Mason, and I think Mason was very unclear and was sending very mixed signals to both the ladies. And so I think their wires just kind of crossed. It's a weird situation, of course. And when you're not sure of what you want to do, like Mason wasn't, like, I can understand that. He definitely could have handled it a lot better. Madison had no business talking on Meg's behalf without her permission. It all kind of worked out the way it was meant to, I think. We know that Meg and Mason got together after the pods. Even though they're not together now, they're not dating now, they're still very close friends. And it's like you can tell from their body language. There was one point before they talked, just the way Meg was adjusting in her seat and she was like kind of putting her hand or like kind of her fist on Mason's leg a little bit. You can tell that they are very, very close. And he does mention that he feels as though he won the show by winning or having Meg as such a close friend. So it all kind of worked out. Though again, I don't think Madison is the villain of this season. Like I'm seeing a lot of people on social media saying that she is. Like she's not that bad. I do think she's got some of her own things to deal with, and hopefully she can process that and be better going forward. But I see a lot of people saying that she would be a good contestant on The Perfect Match, I think it's called. I don't know. I never watched that show. I don't exactly know the premise, but we'll see what she does. The one person who I thought was questionable back then and who I think is even more questionable now is Alex. So I mentioned in the first video I did of this season that, so I think I mentioned it, but one thing I did notice from the pod episodes is that when Mason was all torn up and tormented about choosing either Madison or Meg, Mason kept all the information to himself, knowing that Madison planned on being with him, but he would go up to Mason and hug him and encourage him. And I thought, that's kind of weird because obviously I understand this is a game, it's a competition and so on. So he kept his information close to the vest. I get that. At the same time, does he need to be that chummy with Mason? If he doesn't want to talk to Mason or let on that, yeah, actually Madison and I are going to get together, he can just sit in the corner and not really interact with him. I thought that was weird, but knowing what I know now, that kind of checks out. So I'm not going to go into the details right here, but there's a lot of stuff that's been alleged about him, a lot of receipts that has seemingly been verified. He's never been accused of any crimes, but the stuff that I read and I saw makes him seem like a bit depraved. And in one of the alleged texts that he wrote, the writing that is allegedly from him, he admits that he has antisocial personality disorder tendencies, i.e., that's like the new fancy way of saying sociopathic tendencies. And I think he kind of shows it. The screenshots that Madison had, the first couple of things where he's kind of making fun of Madison and Meg for doing their own reveal, like that's just kind of like, oh my gosh, they're so corny. It's kind of mean, but it's not such a big deal. But there was something else that he mentioned that just, when he says, oh, F Mason, right? It's like, why would you say that? You say you're his friend, but I also saw the way he treated him in a very deceptive way. So anyway, I'm just glad that I hope I don't have to see Alex again. I'm glad that Madison didn't decide to get engaged with him or to even go down to Honduras and possibly sleep with him. I'm glad that never happened. Of all the cast members that showed up, oh yeah, Molly was there. She didn't really have too much to say. Hey, Molly. Molly's always cool. The people that were on the stage, all the women, I think they came off looking well, actually, with the exception of Sara, because Sara, she can be forgiven. Well, the show was done now, but yeah, she really, she is very stupid, quite frankly, for taking Ben back. But, it's not a crime to take someone back. And yeah, I don't think, from the way she's talking, they're not going to get back together, so that's good. But all the guys, with the exception of Daniel, obviously, and Mason. I always thought Mason was kind of cute, so I was always kind of partial to him. And I don't want to talk about Alex, but what's his name? Joey, I can't believe he had me fooled for 12 episodes, I think it was, for a lot of episodes. And Devin, Black MAGA, that never impresses me. Sorry. You have the right to be it. That's fine, but it doesn't impress me much. And Dave is still a child. And Ben, of course. I think Ben, again, he is such a phony. He's such a snake in the grass. I don't wish bad things on him, but I do not wish him well. So that's about it. Let's talk about fashions. I think I liked quite a few of the women's dresses, a lot more than I did in the season 7 reunion. So I think the one I liked the most was Sarah's dress. I like the mix of the leather and the satin, or the lace. So it's a mix of, something leather is very bold and the lace is very delicate. I like that a lot. I thought Meg's dress was fabulous as well. The turtleneck, the blue dress with her coloring and her eyes, she looked really good. And who else did I like? I noticed that Lauren's dress looks like a black version of the dress that Marissa wore last reunion, and Marissa's was the only dress that I kind of liked. And yeah, the guys, I'm not really a suit person. I think the guys look pretty good. So the next season is going to be in Denver, and I don't really know too much about Denver, so I had to Google to see how big it was. So for reference, Minneapolis has a population of about, I think, 424,000, so not very big. Denver, I was like, is it going to be smaller than Minneapolis? No, I think it was 700 and something thousand, so about twice the size, not quite. So that should be interesting. Yeah, it was fun. A lot of the drama, as I mentioned, was saved to the end, but I thoroughly enjoyed this reunion. Oh yeah, I did not bother to look at that performer. I heard the first couple of seconds of it. I'm like, yeah, I can skip through the performance. And Nick, I didn't find Nick and Vanessa to be too corny this time, and they did ask some better questions. There are still some things I thought they could have pushed a bit more on, especially when it came to Dave, but they were pretty okay. So that is it for me for now. Thank you once again. I would love to know what you thought of this episode. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. Make sure you subscribe to I See Melanie, like and share, and I'll see you next time, okay? Bye, everyone.